We were training in the quiet, in the gym, lights off, no music. Police come to the gym because someone obviously grassed us up. You walk in the gym now and there's 1,000 kids in there watching people on TikTok, and they go in there and they train. They haven't got a clue what they're doing.
Something I wanted to touch on, and it's quite controversial. When you were competing, were you taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs?
I don't feel alive unless I'm doing something to push the boundaries. I don't want to go work and then come home every day and just sit there, watch telly and then do the same again. That's not living, you're a slave. If all you do is go to work and go home, what are you living for? You're not living, you're existing. So I climbed Kilimanjaro with a fridge on my back.
Sorry, what? Thank you for being here.
No problem.
Welcome to the Transforming Bodies, Inspiring Minds podcast. We're here today in sunny Royal Leamington Spa.
Yeah.
You've been here before?
No, never. First time.
First time for me as well. It's quite a nice place. I was
It
walking
is.
around
It is. The facilities are amazing.
Most people listen to this won't know who you are, what you've done.
Yeah.
But you've achieved some pretty amazing things in your life, I think.
Well,
But one of them in particular really grabs people's attention.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I've got a left field question for you. We're going to start from the beginning.
Okay.
As a young child, how was school for you?
School wasn't really. I enjoyed school, but I don't think I really excelled in school. I always felt I was a bit different anyway. You know what I mean? Like I was always like probably the class clown. Do you know what I mean? Like trying to make people laugh and that kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of knew from an early age that I always wanted to join the army. I used to tell all my teachers, like when I was 11, that I'm joining the army, and they're telling me, oh, well, if you don't concentrate in school, you won't be able to join the army. And I'm like, well, I've already looked it up. I can join the army without school. So yeah, it's kind of like, you know, I always knew I was going to join the army from probably 10, 11 years old. Probably watched too many Rambo films, and but yeah, so yeah, school was a weird one for me. I always found that I think the only GCSE I come away with was resistant materials, which is quite ironic because, you know, building using your hands. So, you know, considering what I've done, you know, with, obviously we'll talk about what I've done with my van and that sort of thing. You know, I do learn better with my hands. So not every kid obviously learns the same.
So was that your favourite subject at school?
Yeah, it was purely because, you know, I was building things. I was working with wood. I was working with electrics and stuff like that. But, you know, I just never followed it up when I left school.
Fair enough. So I suppose in one way you're quite lucky because you've managed to go into the army, which is what you always wanted to do as a child. Because most of us have dreams as kids. We want to be a pilot or a bus driver, or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's my kids at the moment. One of them says he wants to be a bus driver.
Yeah.
But you actually managed to achieve that. So what was it about the army that attracted you to it or made you want to be in the army?
I don't know. I mean, you know, certain things went on at home that, you know, subconsciously I probably wanted to escape from. I didn't get on with my brother very much, and we ended up having a foster brother as well. Okay. And they made my life quite hard, to be honest. And I was always a very skinny kid. So like growing up, I was, you know, 7 stone, soaking wet through. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't, you know, nothing like I am now. But yeah, I think the army was escaping an environment possibly, but I always loved to challenge myself physically. And in turn, I think that helped me challenge myself mentally as well. And I think that's the point of the army was, you know, to gain that physical strength maybe and to change my mindset. But it was very much, I believe now, as I've got older, I very much believe it was an escape from my reality growing up.
So for you, it was sort of a relief to be able to go to the army and not have to deal with things at home. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, I wanted to leave my family environment quite early, to be honest, because of things that were going on with my brother. So yeah, we were always fighting, and you know, yeah, siblings fight all the time, and you know, it's normal, isn't it? But you know, to the point where it physically violent and mentally torture and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It did come to a point where, you know, 15 years old, I wanted to leave home. That was, you know what I mean? I just always wanted to leave home, and you know, I ended up doing that through the army anyway. So
you're in the army, and what were you doing in the army? So obviously, it's an escape for you. You're there. Yeah. Are you happy when you're in the army?
It's a weird one because when you're in the army, especially like as obviously a young boy, you know, I joined the army at 16, so it's a weird one when you join the army because when I was in it, I really enjoyed certain things, and I didn't, obviously same with any job, but when I was in the army, I loved the camaraderie. I loved being part of a team. I love that, being around the blokes. You know what I mean? I love that side of it. It was just the messing around, you know, the way you get messed about in the army. We've got a saying called "on the bus, off the bus, on the bus, off the bus." You know, you could be here doing one thing and then here doing another thing, and it's just your life's kind of all over the place. So yeah, it was a weird time. I really enjoyed my time. Looking back now, I wish I'd stayed in, and I wish I would have stayed in. But you know, things happen for a reason, and I never. But yeah, it's a weird one when you're in there because you always think about, oh, I want to get out. But then when I got out, that's when my life sort of took a bad turn, and I was like, I wanted to be back in. Do you know what I mean?
But what were you doing in the army? You were an instructor, weren't you?
Yeah. So I joined as a Grenadier Guard, Queen's Guard. Mm-hmm. So like straight away, I didn't even know what a Queen's Guard was, to be honest. Like I joined the Queen's Guard. Like most people will tell you who join the army, you 9 times out of 10, you join the regiment of who the recruiting officer is at the recruiting office. And my recruiter was a Grenadier Guard. I didn't have a clue that they were the guys that stood outside Buckingham Palace wearing bearskins. So when I actually joined the Guards, it was like a big culture shock because they're big onto drill. They're very disciplined. And, you know, we're a very proud regiment because the Grenadiers are the first regiment of foot guards. So, you know, we've got a lot of heritage. 1656 we were formed. So probably the oldest regiment in the British Army. So there's a lot of proudness there with the Grenadiers. But like I said, they were very strict on drill and ceremonial duties when I first joined. And, you know what I mean? I didn't have a clue about any of this until actually I passed out of training, and obviously we started stagging on at Wellington Barracks. We were based in Wellington Barracks, and we were stagging on at Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace, Windsor Castle, Tower of London, doing the Queen's birthday parade. So, you know, I've been involved in 3 or 4 Queen's birthday parades as well, which is obviously televised every year. So that's quite a proud thing to be part of. But as soon as I got to battalion, I very quickly went into support company, which in a battalion, a support company would be like, is what it is. It's support for the guys on the ground. So in a support company, you would have an anti-tank platoon, a mortar platoon, which I was part of the mortars. You'd have a sniper platoon and a recce platoon. So I become part of the mortar platoon as soon as I got to battalion, which was, you know, a privilege in itself, not going straight into, as we call them, puddle hoppers, you know, foot soldiers on the ground. And then, ended up going to Bosnia. And while I was out in Bosnia, I passed a PTI carder, so physical training instructor carder. I think we did a 3-miler with webbing and boots, combat trousers and weapon and rifle. And I think we did a 3-miler. So obviously I beat people on that to win the carder to go and do my PTI course in Aldershot.
So just so people don't know, what's a 3-miler?
3-miler, say just a 5K-ish, a 5K run, but a weighted run.
So with all the gear,
everything,
so with your weapon, you got to run 5K.
Yeah, so it was only a 35-pounder, I think. So we basically had webbing. If people don't know what webbing is, it's basically a belt with satchels all the way around it, around your back, where you keep ammunition, waterproofs, and other bits of kit. We were running with that, and then that would be like, that was the test to see if you were fit enough to pass the PTI course, basically. So I did that. I beat everyone on that, and I become eligible to do the PTI course, which was back in the UK. So I got flown back from Bosnia, and we ended up doing a PTI course for 3 months, an intensive 3-month course of fitness every day for like 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. You'd have let's say there's 20 of us on the carder, 20 of us, 30 of us on the class. Each day, someone might do a boot run in the morning, an 8-mile boot run, and they'll take the class for that. And then in the afternoon, someone else would take a circuit training session, and then in the afternoon, someone else would take another lesson. So, you know, it was constantly doing fitness every day for a long time. So, yeah.
So that probably shaped what you went and did after the army, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But just staying within the time that you were still in the army.
Yeah.
Where your parents must have been, or your family must have been incredibly proud of what you'd achieved. Did it change your relationship with them? Did they see you in a different light now that you'd achieved so much within the army?
Yeah, massively. I think it made my mum and my dad proud, to be honest. Like my dad, I think my dad even, you know, tenfold, definitely, you know, he was definitely proud of me. And he says it all the time now, you know what I mean? Our dynamic has changed a lot over the years, but you know, and vice versa. Actually, I think it made my older brother, who, you know, I don't get on with, it obviously, he didn't like that, because then obviously I did something with myself that they were proud of, and he's done nothing with himself, sort of thing. So yeah, it kind of.
So you became sort of, I suppose, the golden child. That
almost, yeah. That's the exact term that my brother would use. Yes, because you know he does nothing and I do everything, and all of a sudden everything's given to me, even though I've worked for everything I've got in life. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. You wouldn't have achieved what you'd achieved in the army if you hadn't worked hard and you'd been dedicated and focused. So
exactly, yeah.
That's interesting. So how long were you in the army for in the end?
So just under 8 years in the end.
So you spent 8 years in the army. And then why did you decide to leave?
So when I was 16 and I joined the army, I become a dad. So obviously it wasn't the right way to do it. And, you know, kids bored in the 90s. We didn't have phones to watch. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, like I said, it was very much of a case of like, I was never at home to escape my environment. I played out a lot. You know, kids these days probably don't know what playing out means. No. But, you know, I used to play outside a lot with my mates. I used to go knock on for them. Yeah. But yeah, you know, we were always out. I never used to be in. And that's probably why I love adventuring so much now. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I ended up getting my wife pregnant. Well, now I. Yeah, at 16. And yeah, when he was born, I was 10 weeks into phase 1 training. So I basically got told on the Thursday night she's going into labour, and they basically said you can get the train back tomorrow morning, but you've got to be back by Sunday. If you're not back by Sunday, you're going to get back squadding and you're going to have to do all your training again. Bearing in mind at 16, 17 years old, you're now like, you've literally been beasted within an inch of your life at this point. This is when, like, you know, they could beast you in the army, not like today. And, you know, I was like, oh, I can't do that again. So I did like literally go back for 2 days. Unfortunately, by the time I got back to Stafford and went to the hospital, my first son, Owen, had already been born. So that's something that plays on my mind a lot over the years, to be honest, missing his birth. And, you know, he doesn't care, but I care, you know what I mean? That's the point. But yeah, so when it come to getting out, she's pregnant again about a year before, and I was training for Iraq at this point, and it was like, nah, I'm not missing. And I missed a lot of his life because of the army. Do you know what I mean? Then you've only got kids for a certain amount of time, you know, 1 to 6 years old. As soon as they turn 6, 7 years old, boom, they grow up so quick. Yeah. And I missed a lot of time out of them crucial years with Owen. So I wasn't going to do it again. So that was the decision to get out, to be honest. So yeah, that was the main reason I come out, because I didn't want to miss them precious years again with my next child. So that's
really interesting, because I think most people who aren't dads won't understand that.
No.
But I do. I understand exactly what you're saying, because I was in the same scenario.
Yeah.
So my first son was born 3.5 years ago, and I was lucky enough that I was working from home. I had an office at home, and so I spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
And so he and I are very close. But I was thinking that if I'd had a regular 9-to-5 job, or if I'd been away like you were, and I often was away quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I would have built that sort of connection or relationship with him that we currently have. And you're absolutely right. I think the first, I would say, 6 or 7 years are really, really important.
Very crucial. And you're the role model as well. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And some people don't realize this, but you are. Like, for me, growing up, watching my dad, he used to work his nuts off. You know what I mean? Like, he used to work nights solid for like 20 years. And he used to go to the pub after work all the time. And we'll get onto that obviously later about mental health. But, I never knew back then why, and now I do. But when I was growing up, all I used to see my dad was go to work, go to the pub after work, have a few beers, come home, go bed, do it again the next day. 20 years working nights, it's a long time. And I think like, I probably got my work ethic off my dad like that, because I never have time off sick. Even if like, even if I'm ill, I'll still go in, because I don't want to let anyone down. That's the way I feel. But yeah, it's, you're right, them years are crucial. And you can tell as well, because the difference between like having a father around and not having a father around is massive. Like I said, you are their first and primary role model. So what you do, they will kind of copy. And that's kind of evident, because when I started spending more time at home when I come out of the army, as my older son, Owen, was growing up, he wanted to train with me in the gym, because at this time he grew up watching me compete in bodybuilding. So obviously when I was at home more, he obviously took more notice with me, and we had a lot better bond. And then that shows a lot more now with my second son, Ty, because from the age, he grew up literally from 5-6 years old watching me compete and coming to the shows and watching me win shows and stuff like that. And when he turned 9, he was like, "Dad, I want to come to the gym with you." And it's like, and I was like, "You're too young yet. You're too young yet." And then I finally give in to him when he was about 11 or 12. And I thought, you know what? At the end of the day, like, training is going to teach him a valuable lesson. It's going to give him discipline. It's going to give him structure, and it's going to give him a lot of things. Like, when you're around a gym environment, around other people who just want to better themselves, it makes you want to be better. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And from the age of 12, he was training 4 or 5 days a week with me, and he still does it to this day. He's 18 tomorrow. Wow. And at the age of 15, he became a British and world powerlifting champion.
Amazing.
And that just shows, like, having that role model around makes a difference. Do you know what I mean? And he's still got them characteristics of working hard and discipline, structuring his day, routine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I do believe, like, as a parent, you are their main role model. If they see you a lazy fucker, excuse my French, and you're sitting on your ass doing nothing, that's exactly what your kids are going to do.
Absolutely.
It might take that one exception where someone breaks the mold, like myself, because no one in my family has done what I've done. I mean, no one in my family has been in the army. No one in my family cares about fitness. No one in my family cares about nutrition. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am that exception in my family, but I'm breaking that generational thing, and want my kids to care about their health, about their personal growth, about their nutrition, about eating healthy. Do you know what I mean?
About themselves, about the body and the mind. No, absolutely. So I think boys especially certainly look up to their fathers, and they sort of imitate what they do. Yeah. And what you did with your son when you took him into the gym when he was 11. So my oldest boy is actually my stepson.
Okay, then that's a hard thing to do as well.
That is, it is. But also, I've been in that situation myself. So when I was quite young, I think I was about 5, my parents divorced. And when I was 13, my mum remarried. And so I had a stepdad. And so he kind of looked after me he was a genuinely amazing guy. Yeah. So it was almost like having 2 dads. Yeah, my father was always around. He was absolutely brilliant, gave us everything, did everything for us. And he was hardworking like your dad as well. And I think that older generation generally, like you said, don't take days off. No. Don't make excuses. No. They just get on with things and they do it.
Don't talk about emotion.
My dad used to tell my dad used to tell me the same thing. He said, don't ever make excuses for anything. No. Just do it. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's abusing you, trying to stop you. If you have something to do, you go ahead and do it. So recently I took my stepson, Noah his name is, into the gym because we were on holiday. And there was a gym there, and I'm like you. So we're going to get to the weightlifting and the competitions in a bit. I'm like you. I I find it very difficult to stay away from the gym.
Yeah.
And I do high intensity training.
Yeah.
And so it's
Which I'm
even
a big
more
fan of as well.
Yeah, it's even more difficult because you know that once you've done a high intensity session, you can't go to the gym the next day.
No.
You're absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
So I specifically chose, my wife is going to kill me if she listens to this. I specifically chose a resort that had a gym.
Oh, I do that every time I go away.
And I actually emailed the resort beforehand, and I said to them, can you send me a photo and a list of all your equipment you have in the gym? Because I needed to make sure that I would be able to perform all my exercises.
I don't go to a resort unless there is a gym.
Absolutely. But a good gym.
Yeah.
And it was only when they were really good. They responded and they said, yeah, this is the equipment we have. And the lady, she took photos. And I said to my wife, this is the gym. This is the resort we need to go to.
Yeah.
But why this one? No. I like this one. This is the best one.
Yeah.
She has no idea that it was purely based on the gym. And of course, it was a good resort.
Yeah.
So while we were on holiday, I said to my stepson, I said, listen, let's go to the gym. I'm going to show you 4 exercises. And you could literally do these 4 exercises for the rest of your life. I showed him how to do a deadlift.
Yeah.
A squat.
Yeah.
A pull down and a dip.
Compound movements. That's
all he needed.
Yeah.
And I stood there and I guided him through it and I watched him and I was a bit tough on him.
Yeah.
But I think he enjoyed it. But Noah is very different from my youngest son, Adam, who's very active, wants to run around, play, do things. Whereas Noah is the sort of guy who could sit there, read a book for 4 hours, not say a word. And so they're 2 very, very different characters.
Yeah, my 2 sons are exactly the same.
So I don't think Noah is going to be like your son. I don't think he's going to take up bodybuilding. But the point is that they have the knowledge.
You're giving him a foundation.
He has the knowledge. If he tomorrow decides, actually, I'm not happy with my body, the way I look, or I'm not happy with how strong or how weak I am, I know what I need to do. I can go to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm doing 4 exercises. Even once a week.
Yeah. And
to the maximum intensity.
It's empowering, isn't it? Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
And, not just obviously knowledge for your brain, but knowledge for yourself, for your body, for how to feel good, how to look good. Yeah. You're teaching them life skills at the end of the day that not many parents do teach their children.
No.
And it's a shame because I'll tell you the biggest thing for me, right? When he was that age, and my eldest son, when he was training with me, he spent a whole summer training with me when he was 12, and he looked ripped. Like for a 12, 13-year-old, he was ripped, and he had better abs than me at the time because I think I was bulking. But like, I just wish some parents could feel how good it feels to do something you love with your son. Do you know what I mean? But like training has been a part of my life for a very long time now. I started training in my bedroom when I was 15 years old with no guidance. Everything I've learned along the way. I've made so many mistakes. Like most kids when they first start training, you walk in Pure Gym now and there's 1,000 kids in there, coming from school, watching people on TikTok and whatever, and they go in there and they train. They haven't got a clue what they're doing.
They've got no idea.
Yeah, and they're doing all these farty arse exercises like kickbacks for their legs and all this. And I'm like, just learn the basics. That's all you've got to do. Like learn how to train the basics. Keep it simple. Yeah. We have a thing in the army, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. It's not that complicated, but people are trying to complicate it. But I just wish parents could feel what I felt when you get to enjoy sort of your hobby, if you like, with your kid, and they enjoy it as well. You both got a common ground. You know what I mean? It's quite special.
It's a way to bond, and it is
special.
Special.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, and there's no better bonding. Like we made it before my eldest lad turned 18. We almost made it like a ritual that I wouldn't give him his birthday present, or we wouldn't go out for dinner and cake and stuff like that until we went and had a leg session. So literally, like you could ask my son this. Both my sons, I remember, like, I think when my lad was Owen was 16, I think, like, I took him to the gym, and first thing in the morning we trained legs, and like we were doing leg press, and his legs were shaking.
That's a killer.
Do you know what I mean?
Legs is the worst. Legs is the hardest.
It's one of the hardest things. That's why no one trains it, because it's hard. But
I love doing legs.
I love it. Yeah.
Growing up, I was very, very athletic. I was like you. I was skinny, but I was. The only reason I loved to go to school was for the sports.
Yeah.
And I was good at sports.
Yeah.
I was good at football. I was good at cricket.
See, I was the opposite.
I was good at running.
Yeah. See, I was never bothered about sports when I was in school. It was only when I become 15, 16 and I wanted to join out. That's when mine started.
Yeah. So for me, when I was at school, even though I was skinny, I always had really strong legs.
Yeah.
So even now, my wife always says to me as well, like, your legs are huge in comparison to the rest of your body. And it's because, and if any kids are watching this, I would say this, is that just do any sort of physical activity till you're absolutely wrecked. Yeah. Because that is going to build the foundation for the rest of your life.
100%, yeah.
Because I was super active up till the age of about 19, 20. I went to university, stopped doing it all. But it didn't matter too much because I still had built that base.
You built that foundation.
Over the last 20 years, I knew. And it was easy for me to maintain my physique.
Yeah.
I've always been slim. I've always been quite cut, had low percentages of body fat.
Yeah.
And so up until I was about 35, I could do press-ups, pull-ups, and I would look lean and ripped. Yeah. No problem. But as you get to your 40s,
exactly,
things change. And so my training has changed as well.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying, you left the army.
Yeah.
And you then started competing in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? I hope you're enjoying this episode of Transforming Bodies, Empowering Minds. If what you've heard today resonates with you and you're looking for more insights or a way to get started, I may have just the thing for you. I've developed an 8-week high-intensity training program that transforms both body and mind. It's a personalized approach working one-on-one with me. The program includes a tailored training plan, nutrition advice from our experts, and effective mindset techniques. You'll be a member of a private group where you'll be able to share your progress, post meal photos, and stream or record and upload your workout videos, which I review and provide feedback on. I've previously even joined some of my clients in the gym for hands-on sessions while on my travels. During the program, we'll use technology like smart scales to track your progress and continually make adjustments based on your performance. The program extends beyond strength building to mental transformation. As my clients master the principles of HIIT, they often experience a shift in outlook, questioning their limits and breaking through mental barriers of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Jerome, a recent client of mine, approached me as he was considerably underweight. He wasn't happy with the way he looked, and he was uninterested in food, struggling to keep up his daily calorie intake. He'd recently joined a gym, but he wasn't seeing any progress. The one thing that Jerome definitely had on his side, though, was his determination. He wants to change his body and eating habits. Through the personalized 8-week program, working with nutritionists, we gradually increased his daily caloric intake, focusing on nutrient-dense foods. I started Jerome on a progressive high-intensity training program, which we adapted along the way. By week 8, Jerome had gained 7 kilograms of lean muscle mass, and he was finally at his ideal weight. More importantly, his relationship with food transformed. He now enjoys meal planning and preparation, viewing food as a fuel for his fitness goals rather than a chore. Now, I'm very selective about which clients can join the program, as I want to work with only genuinely motivated people who want to transform their bodies and their minds. If you're truly ready to take the next step, you can book a free, no obligation consultation using the link in the description. Just enter a few basic details, we'll talk about your goals to see if the program is the right fit for you. My aim is to help as many people as possible discover their true physical and mental capabilities. It's not just about getting fit, it's about reshaping your approach to challenges in all areas of life. Now, back to the episode.
Well, this is basically what, when I left the army, like I said to you, when you're in the army, you kind of like, because of the way you get messed about a lot, for me, it was like, this is going to sound really bad, but it almost felt like I was in kind of an open prison because I always had to be back somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I could only go home for the weekend. I'd got to be back. I'd got to go back to London. I could, if we had a long-term leave, we had 2 weeks off for Christmas or whatever, I've got 2 weeks off Christmas, but I've got to go back to London. I've got to go back to the army. So I always felt like, do you know what I mean? But when I got out, I thought that's what I wanted. And obviously I did want that because of my kids. But once you get out and I'm like, I've now got what I wanted. I wanted to be at home. I want to spend more time with the kids. So I'm now out the army and I'm just doing a boring crap 9 to 5 in a warehouse because I didn't have anything else. And I was on my arse. And it was at that point where I started drinking a lot and going out a lot. And, it got to the point where I was drinking to, obviously, because I didn't like my situation. So then I started training. Well, I never stopped training, but I started doing more weights and less cardio. Obviously, the army was a lot more cardio than it was weights, or running with weights, should I say. But once I got out and I started getting serious with the weight training and that, it almost just become like, I need something. Like, I've lost a lot when I left the army. Like, you're part of this big organization, this brotherhood, this family. Do you know what I mean? And you do all these amazing things. And when I come out, I was like, got nothing. Like, what have I got to look forward to? What challenges have I got? I've got nothing that challenges me. So I think that it was, for me, it was about the challenge of getting in shape, and getting in shape to a point where you could get on stage and be judged and compete with other guys and actually be competitive. And I'll be honest, the first show I did, I didn't have a clue. Like, I had a basic knowledge of nutrition because I was a physical training instructor, but it was more of a health-based nutrition. Do you know what I mean? It was not necessarily of gaining muscle and losing fat and keeping muscle and, getting dry to the bone. And, later on in my career, I was at 4% body fat when I was on stage. But that first show I did absolutely crap. And that was the wake-up call, like, actually, shit, I need to actually do a bit of research now and, like, put my head down. And I think that's where, that was 2009. And I think that's where it hit me then, like, this is hard work. You've got to really go for this. So
yeah,
I ended up doing a lot more research about bodybuilding, a lot more research about dieting and training. And then I started following more like the high intensity training from Dorian Yates. So very heavy, hard compound movements, get in there, get it done and get out sort of thing. And then, so that after that first show was an absolute wreck. I didn't place, I was in shape. I looked good to the average person, but I wasn't show ready. I wasn't lean. So yeah, I come back in 2011 after a year and a half of bulking, putting size on, concentrating more on training and, actually learning more about my craft. And then I come back in 2011 to NABA Midlands and I come second out of 24 people. And to me, still to this day, that's like my best achievement, because even though I've done way better than that in shows after that, that was my best achievement, because I went from like not knowing anything and, looking bang average compared to like a competitive bodybuilder to actually getting on stage and beating all these guys,
Because it was the biggest leap.
Yeah, it was a big jump, and that kind of gave me the buzz for it then. And that's why that's almost like where I gained this, this self-progression mentality where I just wanted to get better and better and better. And I thought about nothing else but getting better. And it almost become tunnel vision with it. So yeah, after that, like I come second out of 24 at NABA Midlands, and I got an invite to the British finals. And I went to the British finals in Southport about 4 or 5 weeks after. So I had to carry on dieting, which was tough because I thought it was over.
Yeah.
Which is another mental game.
Yeah. And
then, I went to the British finals. I didn't place there, but it didn't matter to me. I was at the British finals. It was like, I made it here. You know what I mean? This is a win for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then I come away from that. Same again, bulked for another year. Worked on the food, worked on the training, and then come back again 2012, won a show. Come back again 2013, won another show. I think I had about a year or so out. Well, not out, but a year or so where I was just concentrating on gaining size. And I think I was buying my first home not long after. So it was concentrating on saving for that. Then I think from like 2016 onwards, that's when really like my physique just got better and better and better. And I think I did a charity show in Leicester, and there was an because it was a charity show, there was an ex-armed forces category. And I did that, and I come second at that. But to be honest, I lost against a guy who was an absolute monster. So I wasn't too bothered, you know what I mean? And then I did a second category at that show, and I won that. Okay. So, I come away from that show with a first and a second. So, but yeah, then from there, it just got, I just got more and more involved in it. And 2016, I think I did a couple of shows. And then 2017, I think I did 7 back to back.
That's a lot.
So, yeah, so like
That's a lot.
to stay in condition for that long, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
That's hard.
yeah, it was tough. And then same again to that, I think 2018, 19, same again. I think I was doing like 5, 6 shows back to back, because I would like do almost like a warm-up show, say 12, 13 weeks into my diet when, you know, I was at a condition I thought I was competitive. And then and then I would aim for like the shows I really want to do well in, and then aim to go to the British finals for them. And I'd always time it so that I've got like a 6, 7 week window where I could literally peak, you know, every week for about 6, 7 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, it was mentally, it's one of the toughest. If you've ever done a bodybuilding show and a diet for a bodybuilding show, it is literally all mental. Yeah, the training sessions are hard. Don't get me wrong, but I enjoy that. I enjoy the physical push. You know what I mean? I enjoy the challenge of that. But dieting for the purpose of keeping muscle and losing fat is one of the hardest things mentally you can do, because once you get to a certain level of body fat, you haven't got a lot on you anyway. Everything's that 1% more. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, you got your nutrition here, you got your training here, you got your rest here, and then you've got your supplementation here, and everything just gives you that little bit 1 more %. Do you know what I mean? And it mentally, it's hard. It is hard.
I think most people don't know how difficult. I've never entered into competitions. Yeah. I've got no intention of doing it. I don't think I'm built that way.
No.
I'm one of these people that's very lean, very slim. But obviously I love training. I love high intensity training. That's been my thing for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Most people don't understand how difficult it is to train and to compete in bodybuilding because of the sacrifices you have to go through. Oh, massively, yeah. And like you said, I think the training is there. It's always there. Yeah. But the diet is probably the hardest thing.
The diet's the key, the hardest bit.
I just recently found out what bodybuilders go through before a competition.
Yeah.
And I think it was Dorian Yates who was actually talking about when he was competing in the Olympias.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders were fainting backstage.
Yeah.
Because they were so weak.
You're hydrating. You look your best, but you actually feel your worst.
Yeah. Yeah. And then sort of being revived, getting up, going back out on stage. And Dorian I'm sure it was Dorian saying, you know, 5 minutes ago, this guy was lying on the floor unconscious backstage. And now he's out on stage.
Yeah.
And the way you can tell how somebody is really cutting is usually by the face.
Yeah.
Because you see the cheekbones, the eyes are in.
We call it Skeletor look.
The Skeletor look, exactly. Yeah. And most people don't understand what bodybuilders go through. And they probably don't have much sympathy either because they think, well, you do it to yourself.
Exactly. They're
you choose to do it. And that's fair enough. But would you say that, coming back to the training, purely from a training perspective, would you say that the high intensity training is a thing that sort of gave you the biggest boost or pushed you to where you got to?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay. I think when I was competing, my training was very much always aimed to that all-out one set. So if I was training back, I would always start with a heavy compound movement, deadlifts, barbell rows, you know, whatever it may be. But literally it would always be working up to that all-out set. So I might do 1 or 2 warm-up sets, but that last set would be to absolute complete failure.
Yeah.
So the point is, you can't push negatively or positively. You've failed in both.
You can't do one more.
No, you can't do one more rep. That is pushing yourself to failure. And some people don't actually know what it's like to push to failure. And some people who've trained with me, you know, some of my friends in the gym will tell you who train legs with me, don't train with me very often on legs, because back in the day when I used to train legs, I used to train to the point where I felt physically sick, and you know,
you do.
Yeah.
So people that don't know, high intensity training is not the same as volume training. So when we see like old videos of, for example, like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
he was very much volume.
He was all about volume, and you see, I don't know, use his as an example, not because I dislike his style of training.
It's just a different way.
Just a caveat. If you're doing something and it's working for you and you're seeing results, carry on doing it. But what I found was that high intensity training worked for me. When I was doing volume, I was tired all the time. I wasn't making progress.
Yeah.
And what I noticed with high intensity training was I'd do this one out, all up, balls to the wall set, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Sometimes I wouldn't even do a warm-up. For legs, for example, I would go straight from doing a warm-up, a total body warm-up, going straight into doing my legs. So I would go leg extensions, leg press, and then squat.
Yeah.
And I would just do one set. And people don't understand, how is it possible that you can build muscle
on doing
one set?
Yeah.
But what you have to understand is you have to switch off your brain, because your brain is telling you, don't do this.
It's telling you to stop.
It's telling you it hurts, stop.
Yeah.
And you have to switch off your brain.
Yeah.
And push through that pain until you literally, not because your brain is telling you, but because your body is physically unable to push one more rep. And a lot of people don't work to failure because they're scared of that and they can't do that. And I've seen, even with my own clients,
and it's hard.
Changing that mindset is the first thing that we do.
Yeah.
So when I have a client, the first thing we do is we don't talk about the training or the nutrition. The first thing we talk about is the mindset.
Yeah.
And what I do is, without scaring them, I try to make them understand what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And this is, I think high intensity training is now having a little bit of a resurgence, because in recent years, social media, firstly, but second of all, people don't have the amount of time to spend 2 hours in the gym every day or every other day to do a workout.
Yeah.
With a high intensity training workout, you can go to the gym 20 to 30 minutes, you're in, you're out, and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people now looking at this and thinking, that's interesting. I like that.
Because it's time saving. It's hard. It's hard work, but it's time saving. Yeah.
Because purely from a time saving point of view, that is probably the best type of workout.
Yeah.
But for me, it's also been, and I've seen with my own clients, that it's been the best type of workout. So I usually train, strangely, I don't know why, middle-aged men who are usually underweight.
Yeah.
And that's quite difficult to train, because when someone's overweight, you can adjust the diet.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to eat less than it is to eat
Trying
more.
to convince someone to eat more to get
hard,
into better
because
shape.
when you're full, you're full.
Yeah.
You can't physically eat anymore.
No.
But if someone is trying to lose weight, you can say, well, just exercise a little bit. Maybe just cut your calories by 100 a week or whatever. And slowly you'll start to lose weight.
That's all it is. It's about making.
You can't force yourself to eat.
No.
So it's quite difficult. But I've seen, using high intensity training and a proper nutrition program and making the mindset the most important thing.
Yeah.
I've seen incredible results with my clients.
Yeah.
And you've seen that in your training as well. And I've seen it with my own body. So something I wanted to touch on, and it's quite controversial.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't talk about this, although it's changing a little bit because of social media again as well.
Yeah.
When you were competing, were you taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs?
Yes.
You were.
Yeah.
Would you? So a lot of people don't understand this, because I think kids nowadays, they look at bodybuilders and they think that's cool. And if they wanted to become a bodybuilder, I think what they don't understand is that in order to get to that physique, you have to take steroids.
Yeah. I mean,
no one, just before you say anything, I think no one has the genetics to naturally be able to build their body like that. But I think kids don't understand that is the case.
And this is the problem, is you've got, social media has got a lot of pro bodybuilders or even amateur bodybuilders who look amazing. They look like a He-Man character, you know what I mean? They look like an action figure. And they're promoting to these young lads, take this supplement. And they think that's the reason why they're like that, because they take, but there used to be a lot there's a lot of people now talking about using gear and that, but there never used to be. Do you know what I mean? And like, it was always that, it's the dark side of bodybuilding, don't talk about it. Do you know what I mean? But I think it needs to be talked about, because it educates the young ones. Like, I've told my kids, never want you to touch it.
Yeah.
Because I wish I'd never started it. But the only reason I did start it was because I was competing. Yeah. And funny enough, when I stopped competing, when COVID hit, I was 3 weeks out from a show. As soon as I knew that was my last show I was going to do, I took it as a sign and I stopped competing. As soon as I stopped competing, I looked at ways of getting my body back to its natural levels. And, you know, 4.5 years in, I feel the healthiest I've ever felt. Yeah. Even before, like when I was in the army, I feel healthier than that. And I'm lucky, really. You know, I didn't abuse it like a lot of people did, but some of the amounts that I hear people take now, before they're even trained veterans in nutrition and training, rather than looking at your nutrition first, your training first, and rest and everything else you should be looking at before you even think about touching steroids is like, that's the point. Is some of these kids now are 16 years old taking gear. When 16 years old, your natural growth hormone and your natural testosterone is at the highest it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is blocking it by taking synthetic hormones.
Yeah.
So, like, if anyone does want to take steroids, and I'll iterate this, if you are thinking about doing steroids, why would you do it when you're 18? Wait. Learn how to train, for one. Learn how to diet. Learn about proper nutrition. And once you're a master of your craft at training and you know how to eat to gain muscle and lose body fat, and you hit a certain plateau where you know you're stuck, you can't sort of go anymore without eating more food and taking something else, then think about it. But some of these kids nowadays, like 15, 16 year old, you can see it. The first thing that happens when people take gear is traps, shoulders, and acne all over the back. Some people suffer with it, some people don't. But, you see it all the time. Like, I'm not going to slag him off because he's done amazing, but Sam Sulek, you know what I mean? He quite clearly been taking gear since he was very, very young.
Yeah.
And, fair play to him. He's frigging making millions, whatever. But at what cost?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is he going to drop dead? Look, I don't know if you remember Boston Lloyd. When YouTube started becoming big, he become quite famous, Boston Lloyd, for talking about gear use. And he was out in bodybuilders saying, yeah, they're all on it. They're all on this, they're all on that. But Boston Lloyd was openly saying he was doing this amount. And he was doing a dangerous amount of steroids.
Yeah.
And guess what? Died at 27.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
This is usually
Rich Piana preaching about how much he takes and how much of this he takes and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
42, dead.
Yeah.
And this is the point, is like all these little things, your diet, your training, your nutrition, your supplements, gear, these should all be after you know what you're doing, not before.
Absolutely.
So if you go into the gym at 16 years old and go, right, I want to look like that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go buy some gear. You're a fucking idiot. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You're an absolute idiot, because you need to learn your craft first. I didn't start taking it until I was 24, 5. By which point I'd already been training for many years. I was strong anyway. And people will tell you, when I first come out of the army, I was benching 100 kilo for frigging 15, 20 reps. Yeah. I've always been naturally strong. When I was 15 training in my bedroom, for a little short midget, I've always been quite strong. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the point. People are using it to get strong when they're not, or get big when they haven't tried to get big the right way first.
It's a worrying trend, because I recently saw a video from an American YouTuber who was going around all the different gyms, and there were guys in their late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
And they'd been taking performance-enhancing drugs or steroids for the last couple of years, and they were huge.
Yeah. And
one of the guys was basically boasting, because he was asking the guy who was doing the interview, how long have you been training? And he said something like 9 years.
Yeah.
And he asked him, he said, I've been training 2 years. And the guy had been training for 2 years. He was in his late teens, and he was way bigger than this guy had been training for 9 years.
Yeah.
Because he'd been taking this stuff.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is what damage they're doing to their body.
Yeah.
And like you said, at any point, they could end up dropping dead.
It's not just.
And I'm not saying that will happen.
No,
but
no. Everyone's different.
Everyone, yeah. I mean, most bodybuilders that were around in the 80s and 90s are no longer around, not because they got old, because most of them died from complications of taking steroids.
And like you said, to get to that level, the problem is, once you get to that level, you've got to maintain it and keep it up.
You have to.
And that was why I left, why I took myself away from bodybuilding. I told myself from the beginning, I'm giving myself 10 years. Like, I knew from day one I ain't got the genetics to be a pro. I can look at someone and go, I could say straight away, you've got the genetics to be a pro.
Absolutely.
I know that from being in that circle.
Yeah.
And the likes of, if you look at pictures of Flex Lewis when he was younger, I don't know, obviously people should know who Flex Lewis is, but Welsh lad, he was a rugby player. He got told to go to the gym to bulk up, because he was a small, lean but skinny lad playing rugby. They needed him to bulk up a bit. He went to the gym, he started touching weights. 6 months, looks better than most average grown men.
Yeah.
And that's pro genetics. When you respond that well to training and nutrition, some people have got superior genetics to others. That's just facts. And yeah, there is some freaks out there who are genetically gifted and can look amazing without the use of gear. But
they'll never be able to compete.
No.
Because you can't compete without taking it, because everyone else
is
doing
it. Yeah, you're at a disadvantage.
So you'd be at disadvantage.
Exactly.
So I know he wasn't a professional bodybuilder. He entered into some amateur bodybuilding competitions. And he was shocked by some of the physiques, even in these amateur natural bodybuilding competitions where people supposedly were not taking gear.
Oh no!
But they absolutely were, because he was basically the smallest guy there, and he was natural.
Yeah, I've spoke to people in like the natural federations, and it's quite sad really, because the natural federations don't get any publicity.
No.
You know what I mean? Because they're not
Who's
all
interested?
They're not
No
all
one's
freaks.
interested.
Everyone wants to see a freak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've spoke to lads who compete in the natural federations, and they're saying, you speak in the circles. Some of them take gear for 6 months a year and then come off. And clear their body out, do a proper PCT to a point where they're at natural levels again. They've still managed to gain a lot of muscle and maintain it with good nutrition. Not as much, but still managed to gain that muscle and then come back. And
but they know exactly, that's the point. So what they know the process. They know when they're going to get tested,
exactly,
and they know what to do to circumvent that.
Yeah,
and it's quite sad, because what we're doing is we're putting this image out there of people who are going to the gym, training, especially on social media. And like you said, there are certain influencers, if you want to call them that, and they're giving an image which is completely false.
Yeah.
And it's completely detached from reality. Because like you said, most people go to the gym, they can't gain that size, that muscle, that mass,
and they get frustrated. Yeah.
And this is why people, in a way, I don't know if they get frustrated and they leave, or they get frustrated and think, well, the only way to do it is then to take something.
Well, that's this generation though, isn't it? Yeah. Like everything's at our fingertips. We want everything now. And that's the problem, is young lads are going into the gym. Gaining a good physique is something that's if you look at someone in their 40s who still has a good physique, who isn't on gear, that's a combination of a long time of dedication and hard training and nutrition, and someone who looks after himself. And kids think they can go in the gym and within 6 months they're going to look like frigging Arnie. No, it's literally a lot. Unless you are genetically gifted. I've got mates who have got really great genetics. They've never touched anything and they look incredible, and they're they're absolutely shredded. But not everyone's like that. If you've got average genetics, it's hard work to maintain a good physique. I 100% have got average genetics, and people think because I've been in shape for so long that I've got good genetics. Look at my family. All my family are overweight. Like every single one of them. That's not genetics. That's educating myself and coming away, breaking the mold.
Working hard.
Yeah, working hard on myself. Yeah.
This is why I said earlier that when I was a kid, I was physically really active. Like all I wanted to do was run and play sports. And this is why I was saying earlier that it's so important from a young age that you stay physically active as much as you can. Yeah. Because that builds the foundation for the rest of your life.
Of course it does, yeah.
So it's more difficult if you haven't been active. And a lot of people find it really difficult. I don't remember. If you remember when you were at school doing PE, physical education, sports.
I hated it.
Most people did.
Yeah.
I was one of the few kids that used to look forward to that. Like I said, because the only thing I loved going to school for was PE, playing football, playtime, lunchtime, whatever it was after school. But there were, I would say, probably 90% of the class hated it.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing kids used to get dressed into their shorts and t-shirts and they would start crying before the lessons even started.
Trying to get out of it.
They were crying, and I would all the time there'd be kids with notes. I hurt my foot on the weekend. My mum gave me a note, so I can't do PE today. Yeah. But I was that kid. I was the first one out there, and I loved it. But it is, if there's one lesson, it's never too late to start. Just start, because once you get to our age, because we're in our 40s, it becomes really difficult if you don't have a base to build on.
Yeah.
So you competed in bodybuilding. You don't compete anymore.
No, I stopped competing. I did a lot of shows in 2019. Actually, in 2017, I come second at the IBFA British Finals. And that's kind of like my highest accolade, which, to some people might think, oh, second. But, second at the British Finals in a federation where they're very much about condition. The IBFA were more old grassroots bodybuilding because I would always concentrate on my condition. I was never the biggest guy on stage, but I always made sure I was one of the leanest. So I always got rewarded for, my condition. Which, same again, comes down to how much of a dark place you want to go with your nutrition when you're dieting. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, 3-4 weeks from a show and I'm on 50 grams of carbs on my low days. Do you know what I mean? 200 grams of carbs on my high days. It's, you know what I mean? It's not a lot of carbohydrates to fuel your day when you're doing cardio every day. You're training weights 5 times a week. But yeah, 2017, I come second at the British Finals. I won a lot of qualifiers. I think I won like 3 shows that year in my category. And then same again, 2018, did quite a few shows. And 2019, I did really well as well. I did a lot of shows. And then I kind of like told myself 2019, right, I'm going to do a 6 to 10 month structured bulk where I'm going to constantly monitor my diet. If I don't gain weight, I'm going to add another 200 calories. I'm going to add another 200 calories. And I did that for over 6 months. And towards the end of 2019, I think I was weighing 16.5 stone at 5'7" with abs because I'd structured my bulk. I had like 1 or 2 cheat meals a week. The rest was literally just lean meats, rice, oats, fruit, all healthy foods. And I was eating 4,500 calories clean a day, every day. And it was a chore. It was harder than dieting because I was literally eating 2 meals and I was full. I was eating 6 meals a day.
You have to force feed yourself.
Yeah. So meal 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all force fed. And sometimes I'd be sat there for an hour trying to get the food in. And then all of a sudden I've ate my food.
Time for the next one.
2 hours, I'm ready for another one. And like literally, it was a full-time job eating. Yeah. And then, so end of 2019, coming up to 2020, that's when I started to cut. I started to bring the calories back down. I started to, reduce the calories each week until, I was losing weight and I was literally the biggest I'd ever been, the leanest I'd ever been. I think I was nearly 15 stone and I was like already at like 6% body fat or something like that. Yeah. And, I still in my head, I wasn't lean enough. I wanted to lose more. And then I think we were 3 weeks out from the first show. And I genuinely thought like this was going to be my best year. I was going to do really well. But, things happen for a reason, whatever that reason is. Never happened because COVID obviously happened. And then all the shows got cancelled, gyms got shut. And then I was just like, my head went then. I just didn't know what to do with myself.
What did you do with yourself? Because obviously a lot of us were in that situation, but for you especially, you've been training the whole time for an objective, for a goal to compete.
And it was taken away from me.
Everything's gone. You can't do anything. So what happened?
I was absolutely livid, to be honest. And everyone was like, oh yeah, you got to stay safe and all this. And I was just like, this is absolute bullshit. I knew it was bullshit from day one. So I carried on training, to be honest, for a few weeks. I won't say what gym it is. I'll protect the gym, but I carried on training. We were training in the quiet in a gym. You know what I mean? Yeah. Lights off, kind of thing. No music, just frigging proper raw. Yeah. And I don't know why I carried on because obviously there was no show. But I carried on dieting. I carried on training for a few weeks, and I just, for some reason I thought, it's going to blow over, but obviously it never. So anyway, the police come to the gym. We're not, because someone obviously grassed us up that we were in there training. So some sad people out there. But yeah, the police were knocking on the window. We were all ducking down behind like gym benches and stuff. It was quite sad. We were like, just leave me alone. I just want to train. But yeah, so the police were knocking on. They were like, you got to go home. And I was like, shut up. But yeah, so. In the end, I ended up taking a few barbells and a few dumbbells from the gym. I borrowed them from the gym. The owner was looking up, owner's nice enough to let me borrow a few bits of kit. And then I literally trained in my garden for that whole summer when we were on lockdown. I just carried on training, relaxed on the diet a bit. But yeah, it was a tough time for me because that's all I'd done for so many years. And all of a sudden, the gym was closed was the biggest thing. Yeah. I couldn't do my whole life. My whole routine was just up in the air. And then, so I carried on training in the garden. But then like I started using that time wisely. That's when I thought, no, you know what, I'd said this was going to be my last show. Things happen for a reason. There was a reason why I wasn't meant to do this show. I took it on the chin, and that's when I started to get, started to work obviously on my health again, like get my hormones back to normal kind of thing. And then, I thought, right, I'm gonna start hiking again, like, because that always used to make me feel good about myself. So, so I thought, I've always wanted to build a camper van. I had plans to build a camper van before lockdown even happened. I'd already bought the van. And like my plan was when I finished competing, I was going to build a camper van and go traveling. So I got to do it, sooner. And because the gyms weren't open, it gave me that chance to obviously do it. And this is where my little bit of skill from school with that resistant materials come in.
Came in handy.
I just put all my energy then. I still train 3-4 times a week in my garden, but I put my energy into building this camper van and set out about setting up a new Instagram and almost like a new identity, if you like, because I had an Instagram for my bodybuilding. So I just thought, you know what, I never really pushed it hard. I just used to put, progress more to keep myself, a bit of self-motivation and trying to hold myself accountable. And then I set up this new Instagram and started using it as sharing my adventures and hiking and stuff like that. So obviously when the lockdown finished, the van was nearly done. The end of that year, the end of 2020, the camper van was pretty much almost ready to go.
Yeah.
And then start of 2021, that's it then. We're everywhere, every weekend, a different location, climbing a mountain, swimming in a waterfall. I've literally been to so many different mountains, waterfalls, lakes, you name it. Like I've been so many places in the UK. Like I'm literally like the amount of places I've actually been to is ridiculous. Like where people like might go to these kind of places once a year, I was going every weekend. So I've done a lot of traveling, a lot of soul searching over the last few years.
Okay, and what came of that? Because you did something quite unique. Well, you've done quite a few of these sort of unique things, which you can talk about now.
Yeah.
So just explain to everyone where the idea came from in relation to the fridge on your back and climbing and hiking.
Well, it's the same again. Like I said to you, I've always challenged myself every year since like I was 15, 16. I've always challenged myself, joining the army, becoming a PTI, like physically, mentally, always tried to challenge myself. And I think I've just got that mentality. I don't feel alive unless I'm doing something to push the boundaries. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to go work and then come home every day and just sit there, watch telly and then do the same again. That's not living. You're a slave. Do you know what I mean? You're a slave. If you all you do is go to work and go home, what are you living for? Do you know what I mean? Like you're not living. You're existing. So for me, like I've always had that mentality, like of I wanted to push myself and do different things and experience life. So obviously once the bodybuilding was done, obviously then built this van and I got into hiking and it was great for a while because it kept me busy, you know what I mean? It kept my mind going. The challenge there was climbing all these mountains, all these sketchy mountains like Cribgoch in Wales and, did all the 3 peaks, Ben Nevis, everything else. Yeah. And then it just wasn't challenging to me anymore because I found the physical fitness side of it because of my mentality of what I've done in the army and with bodybuilding. The physical side of it, I very quickly found out that most people on Instagram who climb mountains aren't very fit. They do it for the pictures.
Sure. Well, that's social media.
Yeah, social media in general is they do it for the pictures.
It's just that moment.
And don't get me wrong, I do it for the pictures as well because I love a good picture.
Of course.
I love a good picture with a great backdrop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love beautiful places. And that was the point of setting up my Instagram, was going to these beautiful places and capturing your pictures of obviously being there. But I quickly found out, climbing these mountains, most people who climb mountains are unfit and like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So you found there wasn't enough intensity.
No, exactly. Yeah, I found it.
If we can use that.
Yeah, it stopped becoming. It wasn't challenging. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something for charity. So I did Adrian's Wall in 2018 when I was still competing with work to raise money for Staffordshire Women's Aid, which help women who have been abused by their partners.
So what did you do? You just walked the length of the wall?
We walked the length of Adrian's Wall. So from like Newcastle to Carlisle, so it's basically like the neck of the UK, isn't it? Adrian's Wall. It's just under 90 miles and we did it in 3 days.
Okay.
So, you know, like nearly 30 miles a day for 3 days, you know, your feet.
That's a fair
distance,
your
feet are killing. But we did it as a group. And that kind of like started my fundraising journey. I did little bits and bobs here and there, like raise money for Blesma, a limbless veterans charity. So I've got a couple of good mates who have lost limbs in the army.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, like I just wanted to raise money and awareness for mental health. It's always been something that's been around me. And it's something that, you know, I've struggled with my own mind. I overthink a lot, very much a lot of ADHD tendencies, and I'm very much always in my own head. And that's why I like the physical side of it, because when I'm training, I don't think about anything. I'm free. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I just come up with this idea. And a lot of people who I serve with have ran half marathons and done little bits and bobs, carrying a fridge on their back. It sort of was the thing to do for a squaddy. You know what I mean? We're used to carrying weight. That's our bread and butter, to carry weight across uneven terrains. You know what I mean? To get to the battle. So that's what tabbing is: tactical advance to battle with weight. So that was the idea, to do something carrying weight. And I thought, just use a backpack. But then I thought, well, no, that ain't going to grab no one's attention. That isn't going to raise as much money. So I then thought, right, I'm going to do the fridge. No, I don't know anyone who's climbed the mountain with a fridge. So I thought, right, I'm gonna do Snowdon with a fridge. I told Mrs. at the time, and she was like, what? She's like, I thought I was like everyone when I told them. I just thought I'm off Morocco, and I probably am. But I just had this idea, and then I actually went one step further, and I wanted it to stand for something. And this is the difference. There's a lot of people who have carried fridges, and they're carrying the fridge for bragging rights, to say they've done a marathon with a fridge, or to say they've climbed a mountain with a fridge. I'm not doing it for bragging rights to say I can climb a mountain with a fridge. I can quite easily climb a mountain with a fridge. I was in the army. I used to carry a lot heavier weight than that. The point is the fridge it's what it represents. I wanted it to be a representation of the burden of mental health. So that metaphor for when when life gets hard, you've got that weight on your shoulders. It's almost that metaphor for carrying that weight on your shoulders of mental health. So I stickered loads of mental health phrases on the side. So like suicide, PTSD, anxiety, depression, all these little trigger words and mental health phrases on the sides. And then I put it out there. And when I first put the post out there, I was overwhelmed. I was shocked because I'd never done anything like this before. I put a post on Facebook and I put a post on Instagram, and I remember it because I was like umming and ahhing. I said to myself, I was like, "Oh, no one's gonna frigging donate. People are gonna think I'm stupid. Like I'm making myself vulnerable because I'm telling people that I struggle with overthinking. I struggle with being in my own head a lot, and I just didn't think anyone would relate to it. And then I literally put this post on before I went bed, and I didn't look at it. I was like, because I was like, right, post, boom, went bed. And then literally I woke up in the morning, and honestly, that much engagement with it, it was crazy. I think straight away, less than 12 hours, I was on £800, which, some people think, oh, it's nothing. But, within 12 hours, people have donated 10 quid here, 10 quid there, 20 quid here, and £800 in less than 12 hours. And I hadn't even done anything yet. I was just overwhelmed by it. And then loads of messages of support, loads of other people saying, they struggle the same. I just thought, there's a lot of people who struggle. There's a lot of people who feel the same way. Yeah. So, the plan was to climb Snowdon, and I put it out there in this post. Anyone who's struggling with their own mental health, want to join me, you haven't got to carry a fridge, but I'll carry a beer inside the fridge for you. And if you want to come with me, we'll go up together, and then when we get to the top, I'll open the fridge and we'll all have a beer together and celebrate at the top. So there's me thinking, only 5 people will turn up. It was like 30 of us. So obviously I had to carry 30 beers in the fridge. So the fridge was like, I think the fridge was 30. I think when we weighed it, I think it was 38 kilo the day we did it. And it was weird because I didn't intend for this to happen, but it was the day of the Snowdon race. Every year they have a Snowdon race, and I didn't realize it, but I planned it on the same day as this. So the mountain was rammed with people. And it just got so much attention, and so many people like got it, the metaphor, and they got the idea behind it. And it happened to be the hottest day of the year as well at this point. So it was like, it was tough physically because it was a heavy weight. And it was a hard climb, to be fair. A lot easier coming down after I drank all the beers. But we got to the top. Dished the beers out and that, and we had a beer, we had a giggle, took some photos, and went back down. And after that, the BBC got involved. BBC Stoke, BBC Radio Stoke, obviously local to me, we're in Stafford. They covered the story throughout when I was training for it, and I didn't just climb Snowdon. I was training like in Cannock Chase and different places, so people were seeing me out with the fridge. So I put a hole inside of the fridge so people could donate money. Okay. I put a QR code on the side so they could donate with their phone as well. And like that first event, I did it for CALM, Campaign Against Living Miserably, who it's a suicide prevention charity, and raised $8,500 for them. And I was like gobsmacked. I raised that much. And then after I did it, I got invited onto the BBC Breakfast Show, and I was on there. And as soon as I come off the BBC Breakfast Show, it shot up like $5,000. I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And I just thought it was amazing the amount of support I got. So then, I was chuffed. So then I went back to my traveling, as I do with my van. I just didn't really think of it. And then same again the next year, I just thought, I need another challenge. I need to push myself again. So then I did something else. I did the National 3 Peaks with the fridge in under 24 hours. And same again, the same sort of thing. I was climbing different mountains every weekend to train for it. I was on these training walks. I was obviously raising money because people were asking me what I was doing. They were scanning the fridge. They were donating. So, I ended up doing the 3 Peaks last year in under 24 hours. That raised nearly $6,000 for Mind. And same again, got onto the BBC Breakfast Sofa and BBC Midlands, and had a lot of good engagement with with people. And then it wasn't really until I got a little bit of a following from it. It wasn't a lot. I think I was on about 3,000, 4,000 followers at this point, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it got a lot of media attention. So it raised, same again, it raised some good money. But then it was only like this year when I thought, how it come about with Kilimanjaro, which was obviously the big one that's obviously made it quite famous, if you like. At the end, when I did the 3 Peaks, I went on to BBC Radio Stoke to have like a post-event interview. And Lee, the radio presenter, basically said to me at the end of the interview, he goes, well, I've got to ask you, what next? Kilimanjaro? As a joke. Started laughing.
So that's where the idea came from.
Yeah. And I was laughing with him at the time. And I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then afterwards, I come away just thinking, why not?
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I Googled it. I looked at Kilimanjaro. I thought, well, it's highest freestanding mountain in the world for one, which is obviously a good thing. And then I Googled to see if anyone had ever done it before. And no one ever had. There was a teacher who did it with his classmates who carried a washer up. Obviously, they took the concrete and everything out of the washer. Because I looked at pictures and he was holding it on his knee with one hand like that on a rock. And I was like, yeah, that ain't a proper washer. Yeah. But yes, he actually didn't manage it. He went down with sickness because of the altitude.
Okay.
And then the students ended up carrying it up. So no single person has ever done that before. So I thought, right, well, that's a world first. So straight away, that's going to get some attention. Do you know what I mean? And so I thought, right, I'm not going to tell anyone, but I'm planning this. And then for some strange reason, I just had it in my head. I was telling my small circle of friends, I think I'm going to do Killy, I think I'm going to do this. And they were like, oh, you're off your head, you know what I mean? And then it was quite weird how it happened. And this is why I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason. Because I went to, I was at work and I got an email from North Staff's Mind, who work were raising money for. It's our local mental health charity, North Staff's Mind. And work were raising money from them. They'd heard about what I'd done. And I got a message from someone from North Staff's Mind saying, hi, Mike, would you mind if we use some of your pictures from your fridge climb on the 3 Peaks in Snowdon to try and entice other people to do events and raise money for charity. And at first I was like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. You use whatever you want, sort of thing. And I sent them these pictures. And then I sent them a message afterwards. And I said, actually, I've got a problem. I'm wondering if you guys could help or you want to work with me. I said, obviously, I've done 2 big events. They've both been really successful. I've got an idea. Do you want to meet for a coffee? So I went and met these 2 guys from North Slash Mind. And Steve, who I have a lot of contact with now, he... when I started speaking to him, I started explaining who I was, what I'd done in, with the army, with the bodybuilding, with the last 2 events, kind of give him a bit more of a social proof of I am who I say I am. I'm going to follow through with what I say. So I pitched the idea to him. I said, listen, this is what I want to do. But I said, I can't afford to do it. Obviously, I need to get some corporate sponsors to help me get out to Kili and do it. I said, if we can get loads of corporate sponsors, I said, we only need one good one to pay for the excursion to get me out there. I said, I'll pay for my own flights. I'll pay for my own kit. And I said, we'll make it happen, sort of thing. And straight away he was in my corner. He was like, if you really think you can do it and blah, blah, then I'll find you somewhere. I'll get some corporates. And he started setting it up. And sure enough, within like a couple of weeks, he said to me, take it as if you're doing it. He said, start promoting it. He says, I'll find you someone. And the first time I promoted it, I still never had anyone to actually do it, to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I literally did it off a whim with him saying he'll find someone. And as soon as they announced it, and everyone was like, obviously it was a big thing when I announced it, went onto the radio. And then, this Mo Chowdhury, a millionaire in Stoke-on-Wones Waterworld, he donated the first $3,000, which paid for the excursion and basically got the whole thing rolling. And then the rest is history. Like that's how Kilimanjaro
that's
come
how
about.
it started.
Yeah.
So you're still the only man to carry a fridge up to Kilimanjaro,
Yeah.
to the peak of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it was a world first, and I will call it a world record, but Guinness Book of Records, shame on them.
I won't recognise it.
No, because we did contact them, but they wanted $12,000 to make it a world record. And I said, why do you want $12,000? So, why do you want $12,000? Like, because their answer was, well, you're going to make a lot of money out of this with publicity and interviews after. And I said, well,
you're doing it for charity.
Exactly. And I said,
you're not doing it for yourself.
Exactly. I said, I'm not a celebrity. I said, I'm not, I'm doing this for charity. I'm not a celebrity. I ain't going to make endorsements or book deals or anything like that. I'm doing it to raise money for charity. And so they wanted $12,000. So obviously that then went out the window. We couldn't obviously call it a world record, but with social media and the way it is day and age, all you got to do is Google who's the first person to climb Kilimanjaro, and guess what? My picture's there. So I'm calling it a world record. You know what I mean?
And I agree with you.
It is a world record. Like if I'm the first person to do it, then it is. And so we called it a world first. Every time I was at the world's first Kilimanjaro climb, because that's what it was.
With the fridge in the back. Interesting. So I think it's important because a lot of men especially don't talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And I think the fridge is fantastic as a way of sort of representing that weight, that burden that we carry. Because men generally, if we have a problem, we keep it to ourselves.
Of course
we don't talk.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk with our wives or our partners or even our friends.
No.
It's like you said, your dad used to go to work every day. He was probably carrying a burden, which is probably why he went to the pub every night to get drunk and then come home and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So we have to find ways in order to deal with that.
Yeah.
And this is a great way of people just opening up and saying, like you said, they message you and say, actually, I can relate to this. I've been carrying burden. I do carry burdens and it affects my mental health. Yeah. And I think there is a stigma attached to it. And I think we need to break that. Yeah.
I think the whole idea with the fridge was to get people talking. And like I said to you before we started the podcast, if I can't express my emotions and speak openly, then how do I expect other people to do it? And the whole idea of starting, this journey, if you like, of me carrying this fridge up mountains, which is all funny, you know what I mean? People take the piss all the time, like, oh, you got any beers in there, mate?
Sure. But it's serious.
But it's a serious thing. And for men especially, I'm raising awareness for mental health, but I do talk a lot about men's mental health because men's mental health is serious. Like 75% of all suicides are men.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that women don't suffer with mental health, because now I'm sort of in the circle of learning more about mental health. You know, a lot of women struggle with their mental health, but the difference between women and men when they try to commit suicide is men are more, and by nature, more violent.
Yeah.
So men are more successful. That's the difference. Is men when they go to take their own lives are more successful because men by nature are naturally more violent. So, you know, that I'm trying to get through to men. And the beauty of Kilimanjaro, when I completed Kilimanjaro, raised over £20,000 for North Staff's Mind. And that money has been ring fenced by North Staff's Mind to create a men's only mental health group in the North Staffordshire area. So essentially, from my efforts and what I've done over the last 2.5 years with these events, has all come together to now have a men's mental health talking group in the name of what I've done. And I'm very much a part of that. Like they quite happily let me come and sit in the group, and they want me to be involved in it. I'm actually going to start taking, once the group builds, I'm going to start taking these guys out into nature. And, you know, the reason why I do it, because it makes me feel good. Like the nature's therapy is amazing.
Yeah. And I don't think we've got time to go into it today, but actually being in nature is one of the greatest things you can do for 100%, your mental health.
Yeah.
People don't understand just taking your shoes off and walking on grass.
Yeah. It's
grounding yourself.
Grounding, yeah.
People, we've lost that because as kids, we wear shoes for everything.
Exactly.
But kids nowadays don't do that because we're so, I think we kind of mollycoddle our kids a bit.
Yeah.
So no, don't do that because you might get something in your foot. You might hurt yourself, but actually walking
barefoot
on earth.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about walking on concrete,
no.
although that's better than walking in shoes.
Yeah.
But simple things like that can make a huge difference
Massively.
to how you feel.
It's everything I preach, like on my Insta, you know, like it's, you know, exercise, eating healthy. Like your gut is your second brain. Yeah. Eating healthy, you know, if you want to have a good, positive mind, start with the gut. Start looking after yourself. So exercise, diet, getting sunlight, getting out in nature. Stop surrounding yourself with negative people or in a negative environment. Start, you know, speaking positively to yourself.
Absolutely.
Stop looking at yourself in a negative way. Try, you know, we've all got things we don't like about ourselves, but at the end of the day, you are who you are. And once you come to terms with that and you start seeing yourself for the positives that you can bring to people's lives, then you're going to be a lot happier. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've done Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
What's next?
Wow. I'm currently in a sort of a transition period with my career. I'm trying to change careers at 40. So, you know, I want it to happen and I'm willing it to happen. I've already sort of, you know, give inklings on my Instagram that it's going to happen. But yeah, the next big one is a big one. It's going to take me 2 months. There's a backup plan if it doesn't happen, if I have to take this new career beforehand and I haven't got the time to do it. There is a backup challenge,
okay,
which I could do in a few weeks. So, you know, not all is lost, but the challenge I want to do is I want to walk the length of the UK while carrying the fridge. So I want to walk from John O'Groats to Land's End while completing the 3 peaks on the way. So the highest mountain in Scotland, England and Wales, while carrying the fridge. So I've worked out if I can do it, I'm going to have to walk average about 20 miles a day for about 55, 60 days consecutively to actually complete it. So all the different aspects of the challenge is, you know, it's tough, you know, trying to get it off the ground is quite simple, but obviously having the time off work and, you know, loads of other variables to get it up and running. But I know what I've got to do to get it up and running. I've already got the support of the media. I've got the support of the charity. So, you know, I've got a lot of people, you know, behind me who are willing to help me. So it's just a case of me getting the time off work, getting it signed off and committing to doing it. But yeah, I really want to do it because I just think it'll, like last year's event was in Kilimanjaro. So like it was like 10 days long, and it did get a lot of publicity, but it's 10 days. I think if I do this challenge and I'm walking the length of the UK for 2 months and I can get the backing of the media and obviously walking through different towns, I'm going to reach more people and raise more awareness. And that was the whole thing. The money's great. Don't get me wrong. Like I'd love to raise a big amount of money. Like this year we raised 20 grand. I'd love to raise 50. I'd love to raise 100. You know what I mean? However much it would be. But the biggest thing for me is the awareness and trying to get people speaking openly about the mental health. The more people that realize we all suffer, we all struggle. You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about, really dark side of mental health. We're talking everyday life. We all struggle. We all go through challenges. We all lose people. Do you know what I mean? So it's normal feelings. So like, just to make people realize that these are normal feelings and you're not alone.
And there's a way to deal with it.
Exactly. And
that's the main thing, is that you can have these feelings, but there's always a way to deal with it.
Of course there is. And I just think it would just be amazing to, walk the length for the UK. For me personally, as a personal challenge, like, I love challenges myself, and I just think this would probably be one of the hardest things I've ever done. Walking 20 miles a day sounds easy for the first couple of days, but after 50 days, you're going to lose a lot of weight, and I've got to keep eating. If I don't eat, obviously I'm going to lose a lot of weight, and then I'm going to struggle even more. And then obviously you got the aspect of me carrying the fridge with my kit inside it. So I'll probably have to carry my food for the day, my water for the day, my warm kit, my wet kit. So, straight away, the fridge, you're talking 25 to 30 kilos every single day on my back, which, all it takes is me to injure myself, and that's it. I can't complete the challenge. So, loads of people have walked it. I think obviously this is going to be the first person to ever walk it with a fridge. I don't think anyone else is that mad. But I just think it will get hopefully it'll get a lot of publicity, and the whole idea about, the fridge being that metaphor for the burden of mental health and carrying that weight on your shoulders. I just think it'll be a really good thing for the people who need to see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. And this is a consensus I've got when I've been hiking, is the people who have been through struggles, straight away they clock me and they know exactly what I'm doing it for. They don't even need to speak about it. Like, they know. Yeah. They just, like, I spoke to a woman when I was training on Penny Fan. I was doing the SAS selection route, around Brecon, as a training exercise for the 3 peaks. 22 miles we did, 8 hours. It was brutal, but I was going up this hill and this girl was coming down, and straight away she looked at me and she just went, "I know exactly why you're doing it." And like, she had a little tear in her eye. She carried on with her dog, and I didn't think nothing of it. I got back home that day and she said, "Last year I tried to kill myself." She sent me a message on social media. "Last year I tried to kill myself, and hiking has saved me. Going out hiking on the weekends has literally like made me feel so much better." And she literally got it straight away, and it was very nice for her to send me that message. It's tough because I get quite a few of these messages. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not a counsellor. You know what I mean? I can't fix people.
No.
But it is nice, when people do get what I'm trying to do.
I think it's important that we do these things because, like you said, you don't know who you're touching.
Exactly.
And so by talking about these things, and that's one of the reasons of this podcast as well, it's not just about the body, it's about the mind.
Yeah.
The mind is the most important thing.
Of course it is. The mind's everything.
Is the master.
The mind's everything. If you can't control the mind, you ain't going to control the body. It's as simple as that. And vice versa. A healthy body equals a healthy mind. A healthy mind, they both work together, don't they?
Absolutely.
And I think if you work on one, the other will follow. And personally, for me, some people work on the mind and the body follows. Some people work on the body and the mind follows. For me, I think I've always worked on my body, and I never really used to know. I used to do it like when we're younger, you obviously do it for vanity reasons. You want to look good or whatever it may be. But as you get older, and you'll know this yourself, I think you realise you actually do it for your own head more than looking good and feeling good's a good side effect of why you do it for your mind.
Sure, those are just bonuses.
Yeah.
But we've got to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who we're touching and who we could be helping.
Yeah. You've only got to help one person. I mean, at the end of the day,
that's it.
People like or want to be liked by millions of people nowadays, and they want all the followers in the world. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've got that many followers, as long as if you touch one person. Do you know what I mean? And if you get to that one person who was thinking about doing something, but they didn't because of the actions you're taking, it's worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you're young, like you said, you have a different outlook on life. But 100%. As you get older, you wonder about your purpose.
Yes.
Why am I here?
Purpose.
What am I doing?
Purpose is everything.
Absolutely.
Everything. And I think for me, like I need a purpose. If I haven't got a purpose, I go very in myself. Yeah. Like when I've not got something to reach for or aim for, I do get very down. And this is probably why the patterns throughout my life of always doing challenges, of always doing something that's challenging physically or mentally, it's a recurring pattern throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
And now I know as I've got older, I need that.
You need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are fine. Some people can just go home and sit on the sofa and watch Coronation Street.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's
everyone's their own master
exactly.
and they do what they want to do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. We're not saying that's bad or good. We do what we do
exactly.
and they do what they do. That's absolutely fine.
Whatever makes you happy. I'm a big believer in that.
Absolutely.
If it makes you happy, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody. If you like dancing in the street, freaking dressed as a clown, and it makes you happy, do what you want to do. I don't judge anyone. And I think that's the big thing is you do you. What makes you happy makes you happy. And don't let any other people interfere with that. If people start slagging you off, like I've had it before, when I've done these challenges, I've had comments online saying, "Oh, he's just doing it for this reason. He's doing it for attention. He's doing it for likes. Doing it for this." If I wanted to do it for likes, I would have stopped doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to carry a fridge up 40 odd mountains in the UK and the biggest freestanding mountain in the world just for likes and attention. There's a purpose behind what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And there's probably easier ways to get attention.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you see, again, great. You do what you do. That's fine. But people just, imitating a dance or miming a song, and they can get, millions of likes.
Views. Exactly.
Why would you go to the trouble of putting a fridge on your back and climbing a mountain?
I'm doing it for
There are much easier ways of doing that.
Yeah.
We just have to keep doing what we're doing. And I always say this, I don't pay any attention to keyboard warriors or haters because they have nothing else to do. And that's fine. It's up to them. We do what we do.
There's a funny story about keyboard warriors. And I think the Daily Star was obviously not a credible newspaper in the slightest to begin with anyway. They wrote a story about me and there was a picture of me with the fridge and their online page, there was all these negative comments, all like giving me crap and all saying like, "Oh, I'm doing it for this, doing it for that. And I never read one of them. I never even knew about it. My mate Carl messaged me and said, "Bro, you seen the Daily Star done a story on you and all these people saying this and that online." He says, "Well, not bad, proper going off, like kicking off." He was like getting angry. Yeah, wanting to like put some messages on there saying, "No, you're all this, you're all that." But I remember speaking to him and I think I did a story about it just before I was about to walk in the gym, and I just said like I told everyone on my story, I said, "There's Daily Star have done a thingy about me." And there's all these negative negative comments saying I'm doing it for this reason, I'm doing that. And I said, I haven't even read it. I don't even care.
Don't care.
Because they're not a part of my life. Then reading their comments, it's not going to change my life one bit. No. Like I've got a job to do. I've got a purpose. And that's what I'm going to do. I couldn't give two shits what they think of me because the only people that I care, the only opinions that matter to me are the people that matter to me.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And
I stay focused on what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah.
So, just quickly, you said you had a backup plan for your walk from John O'Groats to Land's End.
Yeah.
What's the backup plan?
You're trying to get it all out of it, aren't you? Well, the backup plan, basically, because obviously that is a long time off work, and with me trying to transition to a new job, which requires me working away for periods of time and then having time off. I need to come up with a second backup plan so I can still do a challenge. So it's not a bad backup plan. Mount Everest. So that's my backup plan. The reason why that's my backup plan is because I know I can't go to the top of Mount Everest with the fridge. I know that. Health and safety stipulates I cannot climb with a fridge on my back. And I don't think any porters would let me go any further than base camp anyway. But I think base camp is like a 10-day hike and it's 5,300 meters. So, it's still in altitude. It's still a good chore. You know what I mean? It's still going to be a challenge. So I think that would be like a backup plan or maybe another variation of a mountain. But like with these things, I think people have to know that can relate to what you're doing to make it impactful, if you know what I mean. I've learned a lot with the media, with raising money for charity. I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, and everything's about timing with these things. So the reason why I wanted to do John O'Groats to Land's End starting in May, finishing at the end of June, is in May. There's Mental Health Awareness Day, Mental Health Awareness Week. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So with the media, with these dates, the media will naturally want to cover a story that's about mental health. And that's not me trying to get, well, no, I'm gonna rephrase that. That is me trying to get attention.
You are trying to, yeah.
I am trying to get attention.
Because you're doing
and
it
when
for
people say, oh, he's just trying to get attention, my answer is, yes, I am. You're goddamn right I'm trying to get attention. I'm trying to get attention to a cause that no one wants to talk about. So if I can manipulate the system the way the media manipulate the system, that's what I'm going to do to raise the most amount of awareness possible. So like I said, with Everest, yeah, personally, and I know this is going to sound big-headed, but personally, I don't think it's going to be as hard of a challenge as doing Kilimanjaro or doing John O'Groats to Land's End, because it's a 10-day hike, so you acclimatise better over the 10 days,
yeah.
Whereas Kili was a 7-day hike and it was a sharper incline. But because it's Everest and people know about Everest, you ask any stranger in the street, do you know Mount Everest?
Do you know Mount
Yeah,
Everest?
it's the highest mountain in the world.
Yeah.
It's a general knowledge, isn't it? So because it's known by more people, I think it'll be more impactful. So that's the reason why I think Everest is the backup plan, Everest Base Camp.
Okay, good. I would say you're not manipulating it. I would say you're using it to your
using
advantage.
it exactly, yeah. And this is my overthinking brain.
Yeah.
So remember I told you before, like that, you know, I struggle with overthinking a lot. If I get an idea in my head, I can't sleep. I'll literally stay awake. Like I'll go to bed and like, I'll have all these things running around my head.
Yeah.
And if it's something that I'm really passionate about, like we're on about purpose, and I've got a purpose, I will really, like, you know, I'm like a dog with a bone, I will run with it.
Yeah.
But if I'm not into it, normal mundane stuff, I just get bored so easily. And I think this is the characteristics of someone with ADHD, is like, I find normal life very boring. And this is why I can't just sit there and watch telly and put my slippers on and have my pipe, because I need to keep moving. That, for me, that's the meaning of life, is movement. You know what I mean? Like, if you're stuck still, you're dead. You know what I mean? If you stop moving, you're dying. And that for me is the reason why I like to keep busy.
Great. Okay. Michael, thanks very much for agreeing to this interview. It's been absolutely amazing.
No problem,
Great
mate.
to meet you as well.
Great to meet you.
So yeah, thank you for being on the podcast.
No
and
problem.
hopefully we'll see you soon. So
Yeah.
whichever challenge you end up doing, I think maybe we'll have another interview with you at some point, maybe during one of those challenges, and we can see how you're getting on, and people can see what you're doing and also contribute to the charities that you're doing such great work for. So thanks very much.
No, thank you for having me on as well. Like I say, I always feel very grateful when people still want to talk about what I've done, because, you know, you're helping me get it out there as well. So, you know, thank you for helping me get the message out as well.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Look forward to speaking to you soon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.